Hi everybody, I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Peter Clayton's behind the camera. Welcome to the garage. I'm a little formally dressed because I just got off an aeroplane. We're recording Tuesday and Wednesday's program on Monday night. We got in at about 7:30. Now I know why I don't travel. Well, nothing wrong with travel. I'm just not a good traveller, I suppose. That's the thing. I start sitting in a chair, hanging in the sky. It's all totally unnatural. Very strange business. Last Friday we enjoyed the company. This was around the dining room table. Les Ellicus was there. Dr. Kevin Donnelly, he was fantastic. Senator Bob Day, equally so. Professor Ian Plimer, a star. We covered a lot of ground. 3 hours, Jeremy Cordeaux live every Friday morning. And this coming Friday, join us at 9. Bronwyn Bishop, Professor Plimer obviously. Peter Gers is going to drop by. Professor David Flint. Neil Genman, he's an interesting guy. He sent me his book. He's a real estate. He's made a lot of money out of real estate, but he's not conventional. For example, he says, never buy a house at auction. I don't know whether that means it's a good way to sell but not a good way to buy, but yeah, I don't know that you can have one without the other, can you? Leon Byrne is coming by as well. So it's going to be a big program come Friday morning. JeremyCordeaux.com, 9 o'clock. An explosive new book on the death of Marilyn Monroe. That's something, that's a gift that keeps on giving. It's called The Fixer. Moguls, mobsters, movie stars, and Marilyn. It's a book which claims Bobby Kennedy was with Marilyn on the night she died. It's hot stuff, particularly at this time. Josh Young is the guy who wrote it. We're working on getting him on the show. I've got my fingers crossed for Friday, but I can't promise it. But down the track, we'll get him. He's selling books. Probably want to talk. On the weekend, we flew to Sydney for the wonderful memorial service for Reg Grundy and Joy Chambers Grundy. Two really remarkable people. It was a great honour to have been there. Reg, oh golly, what a man. Remarkable guy. He began his working life as a window dresser. And I didn't know that part of his story until Alan Jones, who did the eulogy, told us about it. A window dresser for David Jones in Sydney. He grabbed a junior trainee announcing job at a country radio station. I think it was 2GZ Orange. He worked his way back to Sydney. Now, as a kid, I heard him on 2CH. He did music and ultimately introduced a quiz program. That show was Wheel of Fortune. It was, well, fortunate for television and fortunate for Reg Grundy. Now, I first met him when he gave me the opportunity to host Blind Date. Graham Webb had left and gone to England, I think, something like that. That decision gave me such a huge boost in my career. But looking back on it, I don't think I was cut out to be a game show host somehow. But it did get me on my way, for which I will be ever grateful. And we stayed in touch. He was always supportive and kind and interested in what I was doing. Reg Grundy was a very private man. But he and his beautiful author and actress wife, Joy Chambers, would always come on my radio show when they were around, and that wasn't often. They were off on safari and adventuring all over the world, particularly when he sold Reg Grundy Enterprises and started to enjoy life, I suspect. Beautiful people who deserve every bit of the enormous success they enjoyed. At one time, he produced more television than anyone else in the world. Do you believe that? It was true. I think there were some 400 different shows on at the same time and in different places around the world. Anyway, we had a most interesting weekend. Unfortunately, they picked the weekend of the Sydney Marathon, the fun run. Well, they've got a funny idea of fun, I can tell you. 40, 50,000 people took part. The largest outdoor event of its kind in the world. Great. Except for all the road closures, you just couldn't move. Travel broadens the mind, they tell me, but it also opens the eyes. I don't know. People in Sydney, as I walked down the street, and I did a fair bit of walking around the city, they didn't look very happy. No one smiles. Pete, is that the same in America, the big cities?
Particularly in Los Angeles. Yeah.
People don't want to look you in the eye. They don't want to smile. It's probably a big city thing. People are busy, preoccupied. Oh, listen, by the way, happy birthday to the Commonwealth of Australia. Today, the Commonwealth of Australia, this very day. I'll come to that later. It's also the birthday of television, talking about Reg Grundy. Birthday of television in Australia. Now, I think the tide is turning. As you may have heard, the AFL semi-final on Saturday night, who was that with? Pete?
Saturday night was Brisbane and
I don't know. Anyway, it was an important game, semi-final, on television, broadcast. It's provoked an interesting backlash. A very enlarged welcome to country and smoking ceremony caused the crowd to boo and laugh and catcall. The guy who was doing the ceremony, you know these people are paid to do this nonsense. Anyway, he proceeded to tell the crowd that the ceremony was 250,000 years old. You could hear the laughter. Look, I honestly think people are coming to their senses. They've had enough of this rubbish. The truth, not the invention, is what people are looking for. Perhaps now even demanding. The whole thing was made up in 1972 by Ernie Dingo. It was supposed to be funny. It was supposed to be a part of his stand-up comedy act. First seen at Nimbin. Then at the opening of the Sydney Olympics. Now, Warren Mundine on 3AW this morning, as I say, this Monday morning, we're recording Tuesday's Court of Public Opinion on a Monday night, but Warren Mundine said publicly, to state the obvious, he said, "I have been an Aboriginal all my life, and this welcome to country thing did not exist until just recently. It's nonsense." Now, my God, there's a man who knows. It has to be seen for what it is. It's divisive. Divisive. Aboriginal people are big on truth-telling. Perhaps we could start with this one. And while I'm on the subject, it cost us more than $500 million, more than 500 million, to put this voice referendum on. But it did establish, once and for all, Australians made it quite clear, we do not want to be divided by race. We are many, but we are one. Now, if the Libs had a grain of common sense, they would pledge, as Donald Trump has just pledged, if elected, he will get rid of woke, and he's going to start in the schools, which is the best place to start, really, because that's where it all gets going. Let's get rid of anything that divides us. Let's get rid of the three flags. There should be one flag behind the Prime Minister and the one flag that is officially flown. Now, like it or not, we have only one flag. It's a lovely flag. It's a beautiful flag. That's our flag. Anything else is an invention. King Charles did a lot of good for the modern monarchy by responding the other day to a lady from the New Zealand rugby team. "Can I have a hug?" she said, just like that. And the king looked at her and said, "Why not?" And the whole team, it was a scrum. They grabbed him. It was wonderful. I'm sure he enjoyed it. I'm sure he did. I don't know what his advisors would say, but what the hell. The Albanese government on Thursday, with the help of the Greens, voted down Pauline Hanson's legislation to acknowledge the biological reality of men and women. You see, you can't vote that down. But anyway, they did. They voted down the reality, the biological reality of men and women. And this was done to protect the rights of both sexes. No debate, no normal parliamentary process. There seems to be some hatred of biological women. Pauline Hanson thinks so. If you cannot, this is what she said, I like this, if you cannot acknowledge reality, men and women, how can you possibly govern a country? What are these people trying to achieve, I wonder? Men are men, women are women. All right, it might not be your construct, but it is, for the vast majority, reality. Pauline was simply strengthening or seeking to strengthen the Sex Discrimination Act. Please kick the lot of these people out. They divide by race, by flag, by logic. And then tell us, they have the hide to tell us that they are inclusive. No, they're not, I'm sorry. Families are complicated. Pete, was your family complicated?
No, it wasn't really. No, I was lucky.
I find them complicated, I don't know. But none more so than those of famous dynasties, like the Murdochs. This is an interesting week, ladies and gentlemen. This week, in a closed court in Nevada, the most famous succession of our time will play itself out. There's an old biblical saying, you know, which I'm rather fond of. Sharper than a serpent's tooth is an ungrateful child. On the weekend, it was reported that after the multi-billion-dollar sale of 20th Century Fox to Disney, Rupert Murdoch demanded that each of his children give him $100 million from their proceeds of the sale as a demonstration of their good faith. Good for you, sir. Good for you. Brilliant idea. And by the way, they all did, I believe. I mean, I don't know for certain, but I'm told they all did. All except James. The truth is that without their father, they probably would have, well, I can't say they wouldn't have anything, but they would not have anywhere near the wealth that they enjoy today. This one man achieved an enormous amount. One other thing, though, I have to say this, Mr. Murdoch doesn't let too much sail under the cloak of privacy when he's dealing with other people. I'm talking about, I don't know, editorial policy, whatever. You can't hold your hand up and say to a news limited publication, I'm sorry, it's private. That will only excite them beyond belief. Particularly for celebrities. Fair game, just basically celebrities, you're in the firing line. But when it's him and his family, it's quite different. You, sir, for whom I have great admiration, I think it's a double standard anyway. Closed court, no media. I wish I could get away with that. I was listening with interest to Jane Hume, Senator Jane Hume, very good performer, by the way, on the Insiders program. David Spears tried to wedge her on, will the coalition undo the equal pay for equal work legislation? In other words, will workers get a pay cut? She handled it beautifully, without saying yes or no. And how could she? She couldn't say yes or no. It's not her portfolio area. But her point is the bit I want to emphasise if you didn't see it. All pay and all pay rises should be linked to nothing more or less than productivity. So absolutely true. How can anyone argue with that? We either have a vision for our nation, we roll up our sleeves and we get on with it. The union's mantra of most amount of money for the least amount of work over the shortest number of hours is not going to build a nation or a business. I have more to say about that later. The death of James Earl Jones the other day, 93, I think. He was a great actor, but you'd recognise his voice perhaps more than his acting, I don't know. He was the voice of Darth Vader, the voice of CNN. This is CNN. Great voice. And indeed he was the voice of God. Can't get better than that. Good voices, and there have been good voices. Australia's been blessed with a few. John Laws was great. I thought Ken Sparks' voice was fantastic. Do you remember Ken Sparks, Pete?
Yeah, I do. I used to love watching that show. What was it, Commotion?
Commotion or Go or something or other? I can't remember. He did the football, meat pies, kangaroos and Holden cars commercial. He did a lot of commercials. He had a great voice. Orson Welles has a great voice. Had a great voice. Richard Burton. And I think here in Adelaide, Peter Sellon has got a great voice. Bob Byrne. Good voices. But it's interesting, James Earl Jones recently sold to AI his voice. I don't know if anyone else has ever done that. He sold the rights to his voice. So he must have sat down there and read a few scripts so that they could get absolutely the essence of every syllable, intonation, vocal characteristic. Anyway, so what I'm saying is, if you want a James Earl Jones voiceover for your commercial or documentary or movie, you can have it from the grave, but at a price. And I honestly don't know what the price is. By the way, have you driven, when I say up, I always think people are going to come up from the city to visit the Rising Sun, one of our sponsors. You come up Kensington Road, not far out of the city, or you might be coming down from the hills, or from the south, from the north. Very easy to find. It's Bridge Street at Kensington, off Kensington Road and off McGill Road at the other end. Now, there you'll find this beautiful, beautiful restaurant. It's a pub, an inn. Probably the oldest, but I think they can honestly boast the best, because there it is on the wall. They've been given the award as the best inn or pub in South Australia. Beautiful food, lots of atmosphere, open fires. On a night like tonight, I'll guarantee they have the fires on. Warm hospitality, and whether you're having an intimate lunch or dinner for two, or you want a product launch or a festival, or ring Grant, he'll tell you all about it. The Rising Sun Inn at Kensington. You'll love it. I'll just wish you a happy birthday. Where is it? My glasses. My glasses. Yes, I mentioned to you, it's September the 17th, 1900 was the year the Commonwealth of Australia is proclaimed. Happy birthday to the Commonwealth. 1956, television is first broadcast in Australia. That would be the Olympics, I guess, would it? 56?
I think it was, yes.
Yeah. 1976, NASA publicly unveils Space Shuttle Enterprise at Palmdale, California, named after the Star Trek Enterprise, with, well, I mean, it stunned the world. How the hell is that thing going to get up and get back? But it did. It did. 1976. Wow, that long ago. Roadrunner. I love the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. 1949 was the year Warner Brothers, the cartoon characters created by Chuck Jones, Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies, first debuts. The show was called Fast and Furious. The Roadrunner. Beep beep. 1949. That's amazing. So long ago. American sitcom Bewitched, starring Elizabeth Montgomery, premieres on ABC television on this day. 1964. 1965, 1 year later, CBS premieres World War II sitcom called Hogan's Heroes. 1972, the TV comedy series MASH, adapted from the movies, starring Alan Alda and Loretta Swit. Wayne Rogers, McLean Stevenson, debuts on CBS in the US, runs for 11 years. It gathered 14 Emmys and 1 Peabody Award. Philip W. Pratt patents his sprinkler system for extinguishing fires in 1872. The Red Baron, World War I flying ace. The Red Baron, German Luftwaffe. He, well, it wasn't actually called Luftwaffe, was it? I can't remember what it was called in the First World War. Anyway, wins his first aerial combat in France, and he wins a Blue Max, which was the German equivalent, might still even be so, the German equivalent to the Victoria Cross, I believe. Last Russian troops leave Poland, 1993. Well, for now, anyway. You never know with that crowd. 1923, Hank Williams, the American country singer and songwriter. Cold, cold heart, hey good looking, your cheating heart. Born in Mount Olive, Alabama. He died in 1953. He was only 27, and he died in the back of his Cadillac. He sort of wasted his life, squandered it, really. So much talent. People still record his songs. Hank Williams. Thomas Selfridge becomes the first fatality of a powered flight. First aircraft accident, 1908, on this day. Baz Luhrmann, the Australian film director, Romeo and Juliet, Moulin Rouge, born in Sydney, Australia in 1962. Laura Ashley, the Welsh fashion designer, businesswoman and co-founder of Laura Ashley, dies by falling downstairs at her daughter's home. She was only 60. Woo. I'll just give you one more. Oh, that's interesting because, as I said, the Commonwealth of Australia is proclaimed on this day in 1900. On the very same day, in 1787, the US Constitution is signed by delegates at the Philadelphia Convention. Wow. And also, sadly, the bloodiest battle of the Civil War, the American Civil War, occurred on this day in 1862. It was the Battle of Sharpsburg. 22,000 people were killed in one battle. It was actually the first battle in the Civil War that was fought by the Union, or fought by the Confederates on Union land, Union territory. Anyway, my God, let's hope America doesn't head down that same road. It would be very interesting to see what happens after this next election up there in the United States of America. Thank you very much for viewing the Court of Public Opinion, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Peter Clayton and I will be back tomorrow. Believe in yourself, and thank you for watching.